Santa Claus is coming to town. Santa Claus is coming to town. Santa Claus is coming to town. Hello and welcome to the next episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies with special guests Tim and Marie. This is the podcast where all four of us saw a movie at our local Regal cinema, and now we're sitting in Matt's Time to Pilot after the movie in the parking lot, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about such things as, should you see this movie? Should you not see this movie? Should you wait for streaming? Should you pass it all together? Should you get snacks during the movie? Should you mentally prepare for this movie? Should you meditate on it before you actually come see this movie? Or should you just live your life carefree, willy-nilly, like I do? I am Todd Domer.
And I'm Matt Malloy. Yes, we are here to talk about a movie. And we have our guests. Welcome guests. Thank you for being here. And tonight we are going to talk about a Christmas movie.
A little ditty of a movie.
Called Violent Night. That's right, a little play on Silent Night, A Christmas Carol, Violent Night.
A Christmas Massacre.
A Christmas massacre / story. So not too many famous people are in this movie. David Harbour is the lead. And the woman you're trying to tell me about, who I don't know who that is.
Beverly D'Angelo?
Yes.
Yeah.
She was in the Vacation movies.
Chevy Chase's wife in all those movies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Including Christmas Vacation.
So putting in another Christmas classic.
Gotcha.
Playing
gotcha.
against type, but yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, we did just watch Christmas Vacation.
Yeah.
And
Last
John
weekend.
Leguizamo.
And John Leguizamo. Yes.
Right.
I apologize for... I had him on my mind to say. Thank you,
owe-
Tim.
You owe John $5.
Yes, well, he can come collect it when he appears on the podcast.
Yep.
Excellent. I'll pencil him in.
Great. And that's about it.
Yeah.
That's what we've
That's
got.
it for famous names.
So what is this movie about? Well, David Harbour plays Santa Claus, and there is rich people having a family gathering around Christmas time in like a compound mansion type thing. And then some bad guys come and hold them captive and try to get some money that's stored there at the compound. And then Santa Claus comes to do his thing and deliver presents or what have you. And he gets trapped there. And then the rest of the movie is basically Santa Claus kind of taking out bad guys.
Naughty guys.
And that's what
really
the movie is about.
You nailed it.
Yeah. So, it's not really a complex story.
Certainly not a thinker.
It's
Not trying to be.
It's not, it's a tale as old as time. And, that's all that needs to be said. Todd, what are your thoughts on Violent Night? If your
Well,
voice is going to hold out.
We're gonna push through it.
Push through.
I thought this movie had a super strong start, in my opinion, and then fell completely apart in the middle. Tried to bring it back in the end, but it really, the middle kind of just killed it so much that there was no coming back. I dug the story, but like I said, the middle is so rough for this movie. I don't even know how long this movie was, but it's too long. They could have cut a half hour out of this movie, which I don't know how long it was. So maybe it would make it only like a 45-minute or a 50-minute movie, but that's fine.
I think it was about an hour and a
45,
half.
Okay, yeah.
At least an hour and a half.
So I'll say some good things. I thought David Harbour did great.
Yeah.
I thought Harbour.
Mm-hmm.
What am I thinking of? The Ravens coach?
Yes.
Harbaugh.
Harbaugh, yes. Harbour.
So I thought,
Yeah.
and a lot of it was like him. I mean, I think he really carried this movie on his back. not to say that everyone else did a bad job, but it's just the nature of the movie.
Yeah.
And him being kind of all in on this like Santa Claus character that's just like kind of fed up with Christmas because there's no Christmas spirit, and like, you know, kids only want video games and, you know, all that kind of stuff was enjoyable. and him being all in on it kind of sold it, but they just, I don't know if they were just trying to fill out the movie, but they just kind of threw so much story in at times that it was needless. Like, you have a simple premise. If they had just followed that simple premise through the entire movie, I think we would have an enjoyable, like, violent-filled Christmas movie that could serve us for generations. But there is such a thing as just way too much story, and they really tried to throw in some, like, Santa Claus lore and I don't know, maybe the origins of the actual, like, myths of Santa Claus, like, all that kind of stuff, but they only went halfway into it, and they didn't commit to it, so it was just kind of, like, useless. It is pretty violent, and there's plenty of, like, kind of gore stuff, and that's enjoyable to see, in my opinion, of Santa Claus killing people. The novelty of that never wore off for me through the movie. So, and John Leguizamo plays a pretty good villain. I was at least sold on his villainy, but if they just had kept it simple, I think they could have had a huge winner on their hands, at least for me. But much like Hollywood nowadays, it's like things just get super overcomplicated, and they got to throw in all this stuff, and it just... And they almost had to throw in a weird Home Alone kind of homage. There's not montage, homage to it in this movie that I also kind of was like, didn't fit with me. Some other people might be like, oh, that was cool, but I was kind of like, like, I think if you're looking for a who cares action movie, like, this is a fine, serviceable who cares action movie, but I think it could have been. And it's weird to say about the Santa killing naughty people. This could have been something special, I think. And, which is weird to say, but I think it really could have. And they just overcomplicated it. But I continue to like David Harbour. I think he's a really good actor when he wants to be. And I think he really brought it in this movie. So I would highlight him.
Do you think there's times where David Harbour doesn't want to be a good actor?
I think there are times where it's just kind of phoned in, i.e. Hellboy, in my opinion.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I didn't see that.
I mean, I would assume it's never, I want to be a bad actor, but sometimes it can happen to the best of us. So, anywho, I would say if you like who cares action movies, this movie's for you. If you care about good story going along with your action, then this one kind of falls apart a little bit. If you like your Christmas movies to not be violent, then this is definitely not for you, so you might want to skip this one.
Yeah, not for kids.
Yeah, it's certainly not for kids. So I don't know. If you're going to see this movie in theaters, then you are going to see it. I don't think you need to. I don't think you gain anything from the movie theater experience of this movie. I don't think you will lose anything if you just end up watching it one night, streaming service, whatever it comes on. So I wished better things because I thought this movie had a great premise, but it just didn't deliver all the way. It delivered in some aspects, but certainly, like I highlighted already, I think the story just, they tried to throw in way too much. So that's me. I will pass it along to Marie.
Well, thanks for having me back.
You're welcome.
And initially, I was interested in seeing David Harbour, and I agree with you. The overarching theme could have been very interesting and compelling. And that they started out, I was like, this might be interesting and fun. But about 15 minutes in, I was done. I have two good things to say about my experience. One,
There you go.
I thought David Harbour did a pretty good job. Two, I got to sit and hold Matt's hand for an hour and a half.
Whoa, yeah.
You can edit that out if you
peek
want.
behind the curtain.
That is
No,
all
no,
the Christmas
no.
spirit you need.
Oh no,
But-
we don't edit things out of this
But,
podcast.
but
We don't edit this podcast.
outside of that, I thought they were all over the place with the plot. I thought the writing was terrible. They had too many themes trying to go on, too many loose ends, too much dysfunction. It was shocking to see Beverly D'Angelo. That's all I'm going to say about that. And the violence was ridiculous, and the special effects were terrible, and the acting was poor. So I wouldn't waste your time to go see it.
Strong words.
And you know I don't usually have those strong of opinions, but I do. I mean,
Well, strong opinions are more than welcome here.
Yeah,
That's right.
We want that.
I thought we'll just never get these 2 hours back.
You sound like me at Halloween Ends.
Yes.
I
Well-
was trying to think of a movie that I thought I had seen that was worse,
Wow.
and
You couldn't.
I couldn't.
You had to think about it.
And I couldn't, and I was trying to remember what your lowest score was.
We have that.
Um,
Raising Cain. It's our
Raising
lowest
Cain.
score.
Oh, okay. I couldn't remember if it was that or
But
Cats.
Cats is
Cats
is
in-
quite
And
a ways
so
down there.
I thought, I don't know. It occurred to me we might hit a record tonight, from my opinion. But anyway, there you go.
Okay.
Tim.
Todd, I think I am more kind of in your camp. But to me, Violent Night, agreed. Premise, fantastic. Santa letting loose, getting rid of naughty people on Christmas, playing on the tropes of a Christmas movie. Great idea, awesome trailer. That's what fell apart. The trailer had all the good stuff, all the clever bits, all the fun little things that made you go, that looks like a fun movie. And so then when it's stretched out into whatever it was, hour 45 minutes, it's like they didn't have anything else. And the worst part is I could think about 10 different things they could have done. Like more clever, you're going to this for a dumb action movie. Where are the more clever kills? Where are the better action lines? He only had like 2 or 3 of them when he could have had 12 different Christmas puns all day long, and they just didn't.
It wasn't.
They didn't
Wasn't
go.
funny.
They didn't go all in, as they could have. And I agree with you on Harbour. I think we all agree that David Harbour was doing his best with what he was given, but they didn't let him totally let loose. Like he should have been more almost fun. I understand they were going for a jaded Santa, but as the kids' belief in him grew stronger, his jolly side should have come out more, and almost like, I'm back to Santa. And I don't know. I just wanted more of what could have been, because it did disappoint. And it could have been just any action movie. Yes, it's fun to see Santa doing his stuff, but I would have had more fun if he had more fun, if that makes sense. And it just didn't quite deliver what I thought had so much potential to be, like you said, maybe even a Christmas classic, just for playing against type by being violent and over the top and things you don't normally see Santa doing. I thought the little touches they try to do with Santa lore, maybe not all of it, but like, just having him, he's been doing it for years, maybe him and Mrs. Claus are strained, all that stuff, like they could have played more with that, but nope, let's not do that, let's not get too far. And then it's just, I don't know, it's like every little thing they started that might be interesting, they just never finished. And by the end, you're just like, well, that happened. And it's just, and you don't even know what the resolution is going to be, because it's just back to normal. And I don't know, it had all the potential in the world, and I thought it dropped the ball. And David didn't, but everything else did. And that's where I stand.
An action comedy where they forgot about the comedy.
Correct.
Totally.
I maybe
forgot about
chuckled.
the
I maybe
comedy.
chuckled twice, and I was expecting to be laughing throughout the movie.
Well, it's up to me then.
Correct.
So what I agree with the good parts that have been mentioned. The good parts are good. It was an interesting premise. Fell flat. It felt to me like they were trying to make a cross between Home Alone and Die Hard and make it really gory and curse a lot. And they didn't really achieve any of that except for the cursing and the goriness.
Not the cleverness.
Right.
Well,
right.
like, why didn't he use his magic to
More. Yes.
like save them all? Like, he has magic.
Right.
Where did it go?
Which brings me to my next point, which is I like some of you said, I wanted to know more about the lore of Santa, and
Just when it got...
when we delved into that even a little bit, it was always explained away by, oh, it's Christmas magic. I don't really know how it works. Like several times that exact
That would have been
line
funny
was said.
one time. But yeah.
Right. So, yeah, that was a little bit of a bummer to me. And I totally agree with you, Marie, about the special effects that we got were just really poor. From the CGI reindeer flying to
Almost like they wanted
like
it to be. Yeah,
a nail through someone's mouth that didn't really match up with what was happening with their head, and it wasn't good.
We never got a reindeer kill. Like, I was waiting for that the whole
Yeah, I
time.
thought
Of like a
reindeer
reindeer
was gonna
like
do something.
impaling someone.
Yeah.
Why not?
Right.
You know?
Where we're at.
Right.
It's almost like they had this premise, and then they were like, we're gonna go all in, and then it was like they stopped
didn't.
and were like, let's pull back a little bit.
Yeah.
And they played
Let's
that
throw
great.
let's throw
That's
in
too
some
all in.
plot and some story, and
Right.
it was like, no. That's not why we all came for those things. We came for the ridiculousness of a violent night.
And I would even say, like, the Home Alone homage, I think was meant to be like a subversion of, here's what actually happens if that cute, haha, funny stuff were to actually happen to human people. It would hurt a lot, and it would be horrible.
Right.
But again, a better movie would have made it more fun and not just, look how awful this is. And it just, there wasn't any joy in, the characters were evil, but they weren't evil enough where you felt like they all deserved it, if that makes sense.
Right. And so that's the other thing that I was going to say is that I was not invested in any of these characters.
Right.
I was not pulling for any of them other than maybe the little girl.
Yeah, the
little
only
girl
innocent
was-
person in the movie.
Right. Everyone else is just like,
And she
meh.
played it fine, too.
She did a fine job of what she was asked to do, but
She was a fine little girl playing a fine little
Yeah,
girl.
I mean, she was the
Right.
heart of the movie if there was any heart in it.
yes. Well, that's true. Because there was no heart in anyone else. So I thought the movie was pretty bad, and it's a shame that it was because it could have been like I like as we've chronicled on this podcast. I like horror movies. I like gory movies. I like a good, funny, clever way to kill somebody. And there was maybe one or two that were like, oh, that was kind of cool that happened. But by and large, not impressed by this movie. I don't really recommend you see it. And that's what I'll say about that.
Fair.
Right?
Well, down to the important stuff.
Yes.
How many skull crushers would you give this movie? 0 being the worst because you have no skull crushers,
Yes.
which is horrible. Who wants to live that way?
Mm-hmm.
5 being the best because then you have 5 skull crushers, which skull crusher is a hammer that Santa uses
To crush skulls.
to crush skulls.
Yes.
And obviously you want 5 because that's just a party right there.
Right.
So,
Does that mean Santa is Thor?
No.
Although, I mean, it could have
they
been.
were like,
They
I-
left it
Well,
open.
maybe.
they went into
left
this
it
like
open.
weird.
Because he had that weird,
And the tattoos and the...
That's just because that's like when he was a real person. That's the era of time that he was in.
I know,
I
but-
know.
But they also had a throwaway line where he was like, "I'm not the original Santa." Like,
Well, yeah, which...
and it
which-
was like they
which-
created
how
this
did he
weird.
become
Yeah,
Santa?
they
Exactly,
created this
which
weird
to me
lore.
opened up like
That
how
they
does
never-
it? Well, I thought maybe the end of this movie was going to be him passing it on to somebody, but
Right.
nope, none of
I
that.
did too.
None of that.
No, he came back from the dead.
Almost like they were like doing like a bloody Tim Allen.
Right,
Santa Claus.
Santa Claus, yeah.
It crossed my mind at one point in this movie that they should have just had Tim Allen walk on the set
No,
as
that
a
was-
cameo.
you
and
know
just
what?
be like,
But that's too clever for what they were going for.
right, right.
Oh, man.
Well,
So, Matt.
right.
so
Skull Crusher.
I'll give it one Skull Crusher out of 5, and that's a stretch
Yeah.
for me. So, but that's what I'll say. I don't think you should see this.
Fair.
So, 1.
Marie.
Do we have to do it in whole school?
No,
No,
you
no,
can
no.
point
No.
decimal point.
Plenty of points have been
We've done it before.
done over the years.
My Halloween Ends was 0.1.
I'd say 0.5.
Okay.
Tim.
I am going to at least give David Harbour his credit and get it up to a 1.5. But that's really all on his shoulders, like you said,
You are
Todd.
being very generous.
I am, but I thought he committed so much and tried so hard that he raised it above a 1 for me. Because I did chuckle.
Shame that this was his first movie.
I know I did chuckle a few times at his delivery. Like he even had a natural sounding ho 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 that I thought like he tried to make everything work.
This wasn't his first
This is
movie.
definitely not his first
Or the
movie.
first movie I've seen him.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yes.
You never
I mean,
saw
since he was in
Black Widow?
He was in
Stranger
Black Widow.
Things. Was he?
Yeah.
He
That
was the big.
Probably before I knew who he was.
Oh,
Ah,
okay.
okay. That's fair. Yeah, so I'm 1.5.
I think I'm gonna land on a 1.15. And I can tell you exactly what got the 0.15
Yes.
I'm interested.
is when he was sewing up his wound and he used wrapping paper. It just got a
The
nice
wrapping
chuckle
paper.
out
Yeah, I
of me.
did too.
Yeah,
I did too. I
yeah.
thought that
There
was
were not
cool.
enough
That was
little
a nice
things like
touch.
that, but
Yes.
that was like a nice like
That, I
I was
agree with
like
that. That was good.
now everything else that happened around that scene of like that was
Yeah.
when all the backstory came in. They
Yes,
were like,
that's
don't
when, like,
di-
alright.
don't introduce something you're not going to go into.
No.
But when he started to wrap the wrapping paper around, I was like,
Yeah.
okay, that's a good touch.
Yeah.
So,
Yes. And using the ribbon to hold it on.
yes,
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like,
that
and then
was-
he
okay.
tied a bow. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
that was pretty
Yeah,
perfect,
that's
honestly.
That was a clever moment.
But why not magic? Because you know that last scene, there was magic involved in a much more serious injury.
Agreed.
Because more people believed in him at that point. No one believed in him at the beginning.
Those are for philosophers down the years to discuss.
To discuss Violent Night.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, any last thoughts before we wrap up this episode?
Sorry, David.
Better luck.
Since who really cares? I thought John Leguizamo's death was pretty imaginative.
Yeah.
Anticlimactic, but I
But
was
yes,
like,
yes.
that's what I've wanted to happen since they introduced that he could do that
Yeah.
in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
what I've wanted to see.
Yeah, I give you that. Okay.
That might have fed into my 0.15 too,
Yeah.
if I'm being honest.
Okay. Well, very good. So that's going to wrap up this episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, where we reviewed the movie Violent Night. And we didn't really have a very high opinion of this movie. We gave it an overall rating of 1.0375.
Wow.
Skull Crushers out of
One our
5.
lower full average.
It's pretty low down there, and honestly,
It earned it.
it earned a low score. It had some potential, but it did not live up to it. It fell flat. So that is what we'll say about that. And thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading, subscribing if you are, and we will see you next time.
Da 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 da
Da da
da da da.
da da da.